Hello, folks. How are you doing? I am Scott. Today is May the 8th, 2024. Behind me is Bora Bora. I thought I would put that up there so you guys could see how certain class lives. I've taken to playing these on my television inside. It's just some standard AI bullshit generated music along with some drone footage. Some people make a living going to these very exclusive places and flying drones around and selling the footage to YouTube channels and so forth that put them on YouTube and make a bunch of money. You can sit and listen to the same fucking AI generated music over and over again. It's nice and soothing and relaxing for the animals, and you can see how beautiful this world really is if you happen to belong to a certain class. So let's get back to Gaza. I'm going to tell you something that is not going to be shocking or surprising to anybody. Joe Biden is probably the most duplicitous, callous, president that we've had since Barack Obama, and before him, Bill Clinton. And again, I'm on the left, and I'll be the first one to tell you this. At least fucking with, the lies that Dick Cheney and Condi Rice and George W. Bush and Hillary Clinton told you during the Bush days. They were straightforward lies. You understood what they were. Today, what we have happening is probably one of the most heinous, callous deceptions I've seen in a while. I've heard of in a while. And I'm old. I've been around for a while, and I've been paying attention for a while. This is vile. Folks are trying to give on I've told you before that it doesn't matter what they do. All that matters is the narrative that they can sell. It's like the big push right now in the Jewish American community, the ones who support Zionism, is that Zionism is Judaism. So anti-Zionism means you're a Nazi. And that is the equation now, that all Jews support Zionism. And all Jews, Zionism reflects, is Judaism, which couldn't be further from the fucking truth. It couldn't possibly be further from the fucking truth. But that's the narrative they're pushing now in order to try to silence these protesters on these college campuses, to ruin their lives, to get them kicked out of school, to get them blacklisted, and to hurt them, as one individual said, and I covered him talking about that a month and a half ago. It's time we got to hurt people who dare speak out, make them hurt. And of course, all that happens is, as they beat protesters, is the next day more show up. It's not going to work. But that's the mindset of these people. They can hurt us, and we'll be scared, and we'll be silent, and we'll shut up. It doesn't work that way. The Biden administration, let me just say this outright, straight up. The Biden administration is in trouble. They have an election coming up, and they need something from Bibi Netanyahu to make it appear that Joe Biden is not genocidal Joe. He is not so bought and paid for that he will allow Israel to do anything, including continue a genocide in Gaza. Bibi Netanyahu, Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, in case you don't know, is in a very similar situation, meaning he is part of a coalition government because his Likud party did not win enough seats to take over the Knesset, their version of the Congress or Parliament, on their own. And so they need a coalition government to run the country. They partnered with the far-right ultra-Zionist parties, like the Jewish Supremacy or Jewish Power Party, whatever it is, of Ben Giver and all these others, in order to form a coalition government. they will withdraw their support and the government of Israel will collapse immediately if Benjamin Netanyahu signs the peace deal or signs the ceasefire agreement that Hamas has already said that they have approved. So, where does that leave Benjamin? Well, that's a problem for both leaders, who both want more than anything else. Certainly, they want more than, to save children's lives or to stop bloodshed or the fucking hunger. Jesus Christ, is a goddamn commercial. Sorry, I'm not going to play a commercial for these assholes. More than anything else, they want to stay in power. So, what has to happen? Well, this is what they've done. They have worked out a deal behind closed doors in secret to allow Benjamin Netanyahu to invade Rafah, which has already begun, to start bombing Rafah, which has already begun, and to kill a bunch more fucking civilian Palestinians, including children, for about 3 days. At the end of which time, Benjamin Netanyahu promises to sign the ceasefire deal. Which, of course, when it comes to Israel, signing a ceasefire deal is absolutely fucking meaningless. They have signed many ceasefire deals in the thing, going back to the Oslo Accords, going back to the fucking first Intifada. They have signed many fucking deals, and they have reneged and violated each and every fucking one. And they always blame somebody else when they do it. They are not good for their word. Whatever their word is, it's a lie. We know that now. We've seen that many, many times in the past. And that's what that's going to do is it's going to give Benjamin Netanyahu the ability to go before his ultra right-wing psychopathic Ben Giver type war cabinet members and say, okay, we went in there and we bombed and we wiped out fucking Hamas. Of course, they're not stupid enough to think they're actually in there trying to kill Hamas. What they want to do is destroy infrastructure. They want to destroy infrastructure and kill more fucking civilians so that the ultra right-wing fucking citizens can sit up on the fucking hill in their lawn chairs and beat off, listening to fucking children die. I hate to put it that way, but that's how some of these people are. They're just fucking psychopaths. They are. Some of the fucking civilians are psychopaths, just like some of the goddamn politicians. And that, they think, he will be able to then use that. The ultra-right guys can come forward and say, we stuck it to America because we're in charge and we told them, fuck you, we're going to go into Rafah and we're going to kill who we need to kill. And we did that, and so now we're going to sign the peace treaty. And that will save face for the ultra-right-wing, super fucking Zionist, the Jewish Supremacy Party, whatever the Jewish Power Party, whatever the fuck it is. And, of course, Likudniks. And Bibi. So, then they will sign the deal and put it back in Hamas's court to see how many fucking of the hostages they release. Then they can come to the people of Israel and say, I got your hostages back after 7 months. And the IDF only killing 30 of them or so. And that's a win it's a win-win for Bibi and sneaky Uncle Joe Biden. That's what's happening. That's what's going to happen in the next 3 days. And that is just, it makes my skin crawl. Yesterday I got pissed off talking about Eric Adams, a mayor, and fucking, the day before, whatever it was. I got pissed off talking about Eric Adams using facial recognition software to find somebody in the crowd that was from outside in Columbia or NYU, whichever was Columbia, I think, because her daughters had gone to Columbia. And she stopped by to watch a speech given by somebody. And they found her, this 63-year-old grandmother from Tampa. And Eric Adams' people came to him to save his fucking image, to save his reelection, and say, look, let's blame it all on her. She's the organizer. She's the organizer. And she also had a last name that sounded, or was spelled exactly like that guy they railroaded back after, in the lead up to the Iraq War, from down here in Tampa. Alarian, is that his name? Guy that completely fucking railroaded because he was Muslim and was Islamophobia, and that was the thing back then. What they did to her, I was offended by. To see some just crass politicization, or whatever whatever the fucking word is. I can't. I'm 58 years old now, almost, and I can't think. It's just crass. It's just opportunism. It's just lies. It's just using the power of the fucking state. Hey, I'm in the middle of a video that I can't pause. Can you? Well, maybe I can pause it. Hang on a second. Let me see. I'm not making a game video. And hello, people. I think we are back. Let's see. Maybe we are not. Maybe we are. Maybe we are. Sorry about that. Took a phone call from Aunt Beebs. Had to say hi to her. You understand what I'm saying. So they've made a deal with the devil to allow them to blow up countless more fucking civilians in order to put on a show for the most vicious and psychopathic people in Israel and outside. You'll see them outside. You'll see them here in the United States to put on a show so that Benjamin Netanyahu and the Zionists in Israel can say, we weren't pressured into not invading Rafah. When we said we're going to invade Rafah, we invaded Rafah. So there, we finished what we were going to do with Hamas. We taught them a lesson. That is, that it's just sickening. Let me show you what I'm talking about. I'm talking to Bibi. She said there are people talking about this. I'm not the only one bringing this up. At least 35 were killed in strikes in Rafah as vital aid corridors have been cut off. Nearly 36 Palestinian civilians, including women and children, have been killed as Israeli military forces bombed various neighborhoods in the southern Gaza Strip city of Rafah. Medical services at Kuwait Specialized Hospital in Rafah, located 30 kilometers southwest of Gaza City, said that 35 people were killed and 129 injured as a result of Israeli offensive in the last 24 hours. This is what they're doing. This is what they're doing. Israeli attack on Rafah has the U.S. blessing. This is from RT. It was posted yesterday. Israel's invasion of Rafah is being carried out with full American coordination, Qatari news site Al Arabi reported on Tuesday. While Washington has publicly refused to back the operation, Al Arabi sources say the White House gave Israel the green light so it could score a symbolic victory before signing a ceasefire deal, which, of course, Israel signing any kind of deal is meaningless because they don't mean it. It's just, it's like them getting 3 days to bomb people and kill more civilians. It's theater for them. It's all PR. It's all how they look, how they can spin a narrative. After pounding the densely populated city with airstrikes, Israeli tanks and troops entered the eastern district of Rafah on Monday night. As of Tuesday morning, the Israeli military said it had taken operational control of the Gaza side of the Rafah border crossing, which links the Palestinian enclave with Egypt. The operation, which involves Israeli armor and special forces, came after the Egyptian side was notified of it and with full American coordination, Al Arabi reported, citing anonymous sources. Hours before the IDF began its attack on Rafah, the U.S. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller told reporters that Washington does not support Israel launching a full-scale military operation in Rafah. Watch the weasel words. With around 1.4 million displaced Palestinians sheltering there, Miller said a military operation in Rafah right now would dramatically increase the suffering of the Palestinian people, and they know that, and they allowed it just the same. And they okayed it just the fucking same. Simultaneously, Congress had asked for a report on the IDF and Israel's fucking conduct inside of Gaza. Turns out now the U.S. report on Israel's conduct in Gaza Strip has been delayed indefinitely. The Biden administration's report on whether Israel violated U.S. law and international humanitarian law during its operations in the Gaza Strip has been delayed indefinitely, Politico reported on Tuesday. If the report determines that the U.S. and international law has been violated, which of course, how can it not, the Biden administration would be expected to stop sending military assistance to Israel. The administration emailed Congress notifying lawmakers that it will miss the deadline to submit the report, but did not provide additional details. We're just not going to do it because it might embarrass the Zionist friends over in fucking Israel. So they're just not going to do it. That's why the Biden administration put on hold the delivery of some more fucking weapons right before this all happened. So they can say, hey, Joe said, we're not going to send you more weapons. And those crazy people, they went ahead and did it anyway. Joe told them to. Or fucking Joe told them to. Joe's handlers told them to. Go ahead and do it. Because they're doing everything they can to keep fucking Benjamin Netanyahu in office. They're doing everything they can to keep him in office. But he knows, just like we know, even during this quote-unquote temporary ceasefire, which has the potential of becoming a permanent ceasefire, we know for a fact that when things get too hot, when the war slowing down gets too hot and the people in fucking Israel want answers about what actually happened on October 7th, about how much they knew beforehand, about how many Israeli civilians were killed by the IDF. As soon as that starts happening, they're going to do something and kick off conflict again and start bombing more fucking people. And so it'll just be this what they're hoping for is this endless cycle. Now, as I said before, there have been multiple reports out, even from inside Israel and places like their mainstream media, where they have said that this, and of course the Israeli military spokesperson said recently, that this, like yesterday, that this move by Hamas to accept the ceasefire was a ploy, was a trick. Of course it was a fucking ploy. Of course it was a fucking gambit to put the ball back in court of Netanyahu. They said it's a ploy, it's a trick to pressure us to get fucking Bibi Netanyahu ousted by either the majority population of the country, who right now 59%, the latest poll, 59% want him gone, which would be more if they don't do something with this ceasefire agreement and return some of the hostages. And of course, if he signed that immediately, that would have pissed off the fucking rabid right-wing fucking ultra-Zionist land grabbers in Israel and outside of Israel, who would have pulled their support from his coalition and collapsed his coalition. I don't know if that really is a major threat, because they know, and everybody else knows, Benny Gantz is going to take over if they do that. They might as well pack their fucking Zionist bags and move the fuck out of Israel, because when Benny Gantz steps up into office, he's going to see the opportunity to get his name on a piece of history, signing a fucking ceasefire agreement and then a normalization of relations with Palestine and Saudi Arabia and a number of other Middle Eastern countries. He sees the potential in that. And his supporters aren't rabid fucking frothing at the mouth psychopaths. So, I'm not sure entirely that they would. They'll threaten him if he doesn't bomb the shit out of fucking Rafah. They'll threaten him that they'll pull their support. But it doesn't serve their interest to pull their support, because they can still pressure him to do nefarious shit and set off fucking false flag attacks and try to keep the dream of Zionism alive, the dream of wiping Palestine off the map entirely alive. If they fucking pull their support and Bibi is gone and put in shackles and arrested for the felonies that he's facing, how are they going to support, how are they going to do that? They're gone too. Their fucking constituents aren't going to support them, and the rest of the goddamn Israeli civilians aren't going to support them. They're going to lose their fucking standing in the Knesset. And so, and Benny Gantz will step up and make a deal, and things will be better, and all of a sudden they'll be pissed off fucking rabid psychopaths sitting up in their fucking lawn chairs on the hill, wishing they were still seeing children dying. But they understand that. So I don't think they would fucking pull their goddamn support from his coalition anyway. That's what they say. That's what he says. But I don't think they would do it. It doesn't make any sense. They'd be cutting off their nose to spite their own face. Lastly, I want to talk about this. This is something that is a video. It's on my website. You can go look at it. Constant Israeli wolfpack surveillance in technocratic apartheid West Bank. This is a remarkable video. It's a very good video talking about the massive, massive, massive amounts of surveillance that the Israelis are imposing and trying out on their on the people in the West Bank, in the apartheid Bantustans, the Palestinians in the West Bank. Not so much in the settlers, in the settlements where the Israelis are, but certainly where the Palestinians are. Think about that. Treating them like they're living in the ghetto, basically, in a surveillance ghetto, where they have to have passes to get from one area to the other area to go to work or not to go to work, go to a hospital or to go to a school. They've got to go through checkpoints. For what? They're living in Palestine. The West Bank is not fucking Israel. The West Bank is Palestine. This is why they hate this is why, and people will tell, and when Bernie Sanders goes, oh, Hamas is a terrorist organization, fuck Bernie Sanders and fuck everyone who says that. Hamas what makes them a terrorist organization is they say no thank you to what Fatah and the Palestinian Authority are allowing to happen in the West Bank. And what's happening in the West Bank is a dystopian fucking nightmare. Why is that important? Why is that important? Why is that important to you? Why should it be important to you? Because why do you think they're beta testing this shit? 15-minute cities, boys and girls. They have every intention of doing the same thing to the rest of the westernized world, to all of us. You can either say it's because of the next fucking pandemic, or you can say it's because of, global warming, boo. Whatever you want to say. That's what they're talking about. And this is where they're fucking running their goddamn beta testing for their fucking systems on Palestinians. That's why they call Hamas a terrorist state. The Taliban is a terrorist state. Taliban is not a terrorist state. I'm sorry. You might not agree, but the Taliban is not a terrorist state. The Taliban offered to hand over fucking bin Laden after 9/11. Not once, but twice. Publicly. They did it twice publicly. God knows how many times they did it privately in a phone call between their leadership and the Bush administration. They said, we will gladly hand him over, but just like any other extradition fucking request, you need to provide us the proof that he did it. Show us the proof he did it. And if it holds up, which of course they had none because they did it themselves, we'll hand him over. But of course, they didn't really want to hand him over because they wanted that big global war of terror. Not on terror, of terror, because we create the terror. They wanted that. They wanted to bomb fucking Afghanistan. They wanted to bomb Iraq. So they called the Taliban a terrorist organization because they didn't comply. That is what makes Hamas a terrorist organization in the eyes of the Israelis, in the eyes of the Biden administration, in the eyes of Bernie fucking Sanders. If you don't let us bust up Gaza into little Bantustans, into little ghettos, and I use that term on purpose, where we can test all our fucking vaccines, or we can test our fucking surveillance systems, or whatever the fuck else we come up with, whatever AI bullshit we come up with, our fucking central bank digital currencies on you. Whatever the fuck. If you don't let us do that, then you're a terrorist organization. We'll call you a terrorist organization. This is a sickening, vile situation. Somebody was asking me today, they just can't understand how people aren't fucking, nation states aren't fucking doing something about this. Why aren't there fucking battleships floating into the, why isn't there a flotilla of aid and support being followed in, supported in, with a flotilla of fucking military vessels from Turkey, from Iran, from fucking Iraq, from fucking Russia, from China, from fucking Venezuela, from Nicaragua. Why are they letting this happen? Saudi Arabia is doing what they can behind the scenes, and in some cases in front of the scenes, in front of the cameras. They had a big ass fucking businessman meeting in Saudi Arabia at the beginning of last week, and they had a bunch of fucking CEOs and the BlackRock types and the State Street types and the fucking Vanguard types over there, asking for, with their hands out, looking for the opportunity to fucking, get their fingers in the pockets of the fucking Saudis, and they were saying, this is a problem. This is going to be a problem. We're not going to invest in the West if this is what the West does. So here we have this. This is going to be it'll be a fast-moving week. Developments will take place this coming week. There will be certainly be more deaths. There's already more deaths. And then you're going to see Bibi Netanyahu proudly step forward and say, we've destroyed Hamas's capabilities in fucking Rafah, which of course Hamas wasn't in Rafah. We've destroyed their capabilities in Rafah, and so now we can sign this ceasefire agreement, until it serves his political purpose to renege on that deal. This is what they always do. Anyway, I thank you for your time. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.